Hi everyone! Today I am bringing you a video that I don't think we've ever done before on this channel. And I don't know if I'll ever do it again, but I felt like this was a good time because I felt super enthusiastic about the idea, and it's because there's so many exciting things heading our way. So a brand new year is upon us, it is 2024, and much like many other book lovers I know, I've compiled a list of all the new releases that I'm sort of keeping an ear out for, keeping an eye out for, and I thought it would be fun if I shared it with you. It originally started with way less titles, but I'm here to bring you a list of 100 plus titles that are on my radar that I think should be on your radar. I am super excited to share this video with you, and I hope you'll bear with me. For the sake of brevity, I'm gonna try not to repeat myself too much. Just know that I'm super excited or really anticipating some of these, and I'll go out of my way to highlight the ones that I'm most looking forward to. But suffice to say that every single one of these titles is on my radar. It is something I will be actively looking out for and hoping to get my hands on, whether it's by buying the book or borrowing it from my library. To keep things simple, I'm also going to be doing very short summaries. There will be links to all the books where you can pre-order them in the description bar. Hopefully you can check that out and find more info about the books there. Also, all these release dates are based on what I currently know or what I did know when I was pulling all this information together. These are definitely subject to change, especially the later in the year we get, but I will include them anyway, just for the sake of having them there. So when I discussed doing this with Mackie, he suggested that I divide it into two parts. So the first part of this video is going to focus primarily on the contemporary and romance titles that I'm most looking forward to. And then the second part of the video will basically focus on everything else. And everything else is primarily fantasy. But without further ado, let's get started. So to kick off the contemporary and romance section, I'm going to be talking about two books that are scheduled to release on January 9, 2024. The first book is The Atlas of Us, and this is about a young woman named Atlas. She's working as part of a community service program rehabbing trails in the Western Sierras. She's working through her own grief and finds an unexpected family during her time on the trails. Second is Dungeons and Drama, and this one is about an aspiring musical director named Riley, and she ends up making a deal with a nerdy employee named Nathan to cover her shifts at the store in exchange for her fake flirting with him in order to help him get a chance with this girl that he likes. On January 23rd, we have two titles as well. The first is The Breakup Tour. In this one, a rising star musician has a second chance at love with an old flame she remembers all too well. Some of these blurbs are from Goodreads, by the way, just so you know, and they just felt too perfect not to include. Then we have The Getaway List. Another Riley, moves to New York for the summer, where her childhood best friend Tom will help her work their way through the getaway list that they created when they were younger. Jumping over to February, on February 6th, we have ASAP, which is a companion novel to XOXO. In this one, Sori, who is the wealthy daughter of a K-pop company owner, and Nathaniel, who is her K-pop star ex-boyfriend, are thrown together due to circumstances that might just allow them a second chance at romance. I'm so excited for this one. This is actually one of the ones I'm dying to read. I'm so lucky to have an early copy of it, and I cannot wait. I cannot wait. On the 13th, we have Girl Abroad, and this one is about the daughter of a retired rock star studying abroad in London and who ends up entangled in scandal and romance. On March 5th, we have This Could Be Us, which is the companion novel to Before I Let Go. This one is about Soledad, one of the best friends, when her marriage falls apart, and as she struggles to provide for herself and her family, she ends up rediscovering who she is and possibly finding new love in the process. On the 19th of March, we have Expiration Dates. Every time she meets a new man, Daphne Bell receives a slip of paper with his name and the amount of time they will be together for, up until she meets Jake, where circumstances are different. On the 26th, we have two titles. First, we have The Good, the Bad, and the Aunties, which is the continuation of the Auntie series. I don't want to spoil the second and third book because they're kind of related to the first one, so I will give you an idea of what the first is about. First is basically take one accidental murder, 2,000 wedding guests, toss in a possible curse on 3 generations of an immigrant Chinese-Indonesian family, and also throw in 4 meddling Asian aunties, and you've got quite the story. Then we have Manila Takes Manhattan. In this one, 2 Filipino celebrities end up having a one-night stand, only to discover that they will be filming a movie together. On April 2nd, we have Just for the Summer. In this one, Justin and Emma both have the same curse. Whoever they date goes on to find their soulmate after they break up. They end up making an agreement to date each other and then break up in order to break the curse, only to find out that they're getting way more involved in each other's lives than they had planned. On April 9, we have 2 books. We have How to End a Love Story. Helen Zhang hasn't seen Grant Shepard once in the 13 years since a tragic accident that bound their lives together forever. But when they end up working on a show together, they might just end up making peace with their past in order to hold on to each other in the present and maybe find their way into a future together. We also have Wild Love. In this one, Rosie returns to Rose Hill and is hired by her brother's best friend, Ford, who tries to resist the pull between them. The tropes for this one include brother's best friend, my favorite, single dad, he falls first, childhood frenemies to lovers, and forced proximity. A lot of my favorite things. On April 23, we have Funny Story. In this one, Daphne ends up roommates with her ex-fiance's new fiance's ex, and while they are complete opposites, they end up becoming friends and forming a plan to get back at their exes. On May 13, we have The Paradise Problem, a delicious new romance between the buttoned-up heir of a grocery chain and his free-spirited artist ex as they fake their relationship in order to receive a massive inheritance. On May 21st, we have Wild About You, where 2 total opposites end up at one race through the great outdoors, which sounds like so much fun. On June 11, we have A Love Like the Sun, where lifelong best friends spend a fateful summer discovering what might happen if they were to be something more than friends. On June 18, we have Twelfth Night, a grumpy sunshine YA romantic comedy and coming-of-age story about taking up space in the world and learning what it means to let others in. There is an MMORPG aspect to this, and a hidden identity aspect to this, and I am so excited. On June 25th, we have 2 books. First is A Novel Love Story. This is about Professor Eileen Merriweather, and she finds herself transported into the fictional town in her favorite romance series. And she has to find the ending to the last unfinished story in order to make sure things end with happily ever after. We also have Tangled Up in You. Ren has been off the grid for most of her life, and Fitz has his life mapped out completely. When their paths cross at Corona College in a shared college course, they find themselves on a road trip that'll take them in unexpected directions. On July 16, we have Business Casual. This is a companion novel in the Lovelight Farm series, where 2 opposites will find out if one night together is enough to get each other out of their systems. On August 6th, there are 2 books. The first is The Truth According to Ember, where a Chickasaw woman who can't catch a break serves up a little white lie that snowballs into much more. We also have The Friend Zone Experiment, which is a romance about family, class, and love in modern London. On August 13, there is not 1, not 2, but 3 titles. The first is The Breakup Pact, where 2 best friends who haven't spoken in 10 years pretend to date after breakups with their respective exes go viral. We have Haunted Ever After, where Cassie buys a flipped house in Boneyard Key, which is a small Florida coastal town where the residents lean into the ghostliness, and she finds herself caught up in way more than she expected with her haunted home and a potential romance brewing. Kisses, Codes, and Conspiracies, where Tan Lee finds himself embroiled in an unusual love triangle, all while trying to defuse a heist, unravel a conspiracy, and navigate the most complicated babysitting assignment ever. On September 10th, we have The Royals Upstairs. He is the royal bodyguard, she's the royal nanny. The annoyingly hot attraction that simmers between them, that's a royal pain. Okay, I think we've come to the end of the contemporary and romance section of the video. We do have 2 titles that aren't quite SFF, so we're going to start with those. The one historical title I want to mention comes out on April 23rd, 2024, and that's Kill Her Twice. The Chow sisters, May, Gemma, and Peony, discover screen star Lulu Wong's body abandoned in a stable. When the LAPD doesn't seem to want to investigate, the girls suspect a cover-up and decide to take it upon themselves to solve the mystery of their friend's murder. And then I have a horror book. I'm not sure if there's a supernatural aspect to this one, so I'm just going to say it's a horror book. And it comes out on July 30, and that's Our Wicked Histories. A teen girl's attempt to make amends with her former friend group takes a sinister turn during a weekend getaway at an ancestral Irish estate. Now we get to the longer portion of this video, which is the SFF portion of the video. And it's a mix of dystopian and sci-fi, with cozy fantasy, with epic fantasy, with some mythological retellings and fairy tale retellings. It's a mix of everything, so I hope you have a pen and paper ready. Pardon me if that moved. I had an unexpected visitor, and so I got a little startled, but we're going to start with the SFF portion of this video. To kick things off, we have 3 titles coming out on January 2nd. So the first is a sequel, actually. It's Dark Star Burning, Ash Falls White. This is the sequel to Song of Silver, Flame Like Night. The first book summary is that in a fallen kingdom, one girl carries the key to discovering the secrets of her nation's past and unleashing the demons that sleep at its heart. Can't really tell you what the sequel's about, so I'm just going to tell you what the first book is about. Then we have That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon. Spice trader Cinnamon's quiet life is turned upside down when she ends up on a quest with a fiery demon in this irreverently quirky rom-com fantasy. And last but not least, we have A Fragile Enchantment. A magical dressmaker commissioned for a royal wedding finds herself embroiled in scandal when a gossip columnist draws attention to her undeniable chemistry with the groom. On January 9, we have 2 titles. First is Lulu Sinagtala and the City of Noble Warriors. A young Filipino girl discovers realms beyond our own, full of monsters and gods, a terrible evil who wants her magic, and even a talking duck. And then there's Somewhere in the Deep. Crescent accepts a deal. Her debts will be erased if she joins and protects a hunting party for a rescue mission deep within the mining caves underneath her island, only to find more dangerous creatures and dangers to herself than she expected. On the 16th, we have 3 titles as well. The first is also a sequel, so it's Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands. This is the sequel to Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. In the first book, Professor Emily Wilde moves to a small northern town in order to study fairy folklore and discovers dark magic, friendship, and love while she's there. We also have Feybound. When a fatal mistake leads to Yeren's exile from the Elven lands, she and her sister are both forced into the terrifying wilderness beyond their borders. There they encounter the impossible, the Fey Court. And we also have Voyage of the Damned. The 12 heirs of the 12 provinces of Concordia are on a 12-day sea voyage. There's a lot of 12s. But things get messy when a beloved heir is murdered and everyone is a suspect. On January 23, we have To Cage a God. Galena and Sarah's mother grafted gods into their bones using ancient secrets, and both sisters have grown up to become living weapons raised to overthrow an empire no matter what the cost. On January 30, you have 5 books that I've got listed. So first is another sequel. It's House of Flame and Shadow, which is the finale of the Crescent City trilogy. So in the first book, Bryce Quinlan finds herself involved in a murder mystery investigation that uncovers dark powers threatening everyone and everything she loves. I'm really excited to find out how things end in this series. These Deadly Prophecies. A teenage sorcerer's apprentice must solve her boss's murder in order to prove her innocence in this twisty, magic-infused murder mystery. The Dark Fable. Evie receives an invitation to become a part of Dark Fable, a group legendary for spiriting away obscure and occult artifacts, but soon learns the organization has secrets that might be tied to her own past. The Invocations. A darkly seductive witchy thriller where though both men and demons lurk in the shadows, girls refuse to go quietly into the night. The City of Stardust. A young woman descends into its seductive magical underworld of power-hungry scholars, fickle gods, and monsters bent on revenge to break her family's curse in this spellbinding contemporary fantasy debut. February 6 has 2 titles. The first is also kind of a sequel. We have Tales of the Celestial Kingdom. This is a short story collection that's tied to the Celestial Kingdom duology. We also have The Tainted Cup. Anna Delabra is the Empire's greatest detective, and she is asked to solve the mysterious death of an Imperial officer. For the 13th, we have 5 titles. Wow, a lot of February titles. First is The Warm Hand of Ghosts. During the Great War, a combat nurse searches for her brother, believed dead in the trenches despite eerie signs that suggest otherwise. Until the Stars Fall. I'm not sure how to pronounce this, and I'm sorry if I pronounce it incorrectly. Liek is a human serving at the Fey Court who finds herself accused of murdering a Fey noble and saved by someone unlikely, Crown Prince Connor, the brother of the man she's in love with. The Foxwife. It's a stunning novel about a winter full of mysterious deaths, a mother seeking revenge, and old folktales that may very well be true. The Book of Doors. In New York City, bookseller Cassie Andrews is living an unassuming life when she's given a gift by a favorite customer. It's a book, an unusual book full of strange writing and mysterious drawings, and at the very front there is a handwritten message to Cassie telling her that this is the Book of Doors and that any door is every door, but this isn't the only book with some magical ability tied to it. An Education in Malice. Laura and Carmilla have an intense academic rivalry, drawn into the orbit of their poetry professor De La Fontaine, and must decide how much they want to sacrifice in pursuit of knowledge. For the 20th, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books again. We have a sequel first, Disciples of Chaos, which is the sequel to Seven Faceless Saints. So in the first book, Damien and Roz team up to solve a murder mystery, only to find that there is a greater evil they need to defeat in order to save the city. A Tempest of Tea, the first book in a hotly anticipated new fantasy duology about an orphan girl and her crew who get tangled in a heist with vampires. Night for Day, two people destined to be together but to never see each other fight against the greatest odds. It's also a romance, and the two people in question have jobs where they have opposing shifts. The Bad Ones. In the course of a single winter's night, 4 people vanish without a trace across a small town, with her estranged best friend being one of the lost. Nora digs to find the truth behind her disappearance, only to discover coded messages and a tie to Old Town folklore. The Crimson Moth. Rune spent her days as a socialite and her nights as the Crimson Moth, a witch vigilante who helps others of her kind. She winds up pursuing a fake relationship with a witch hunter to make sure they don't catch her trail, but it looks like they're both catching real feelings. On February 27, we have 5 titles. A Fate Inked in Blood, a shield maiden blessed by the gods battles to unite a nation under a power-hungry king while also fighting her growing desire for his fiery son. Fathom Folk. Half-siren Mira is excited that her promotion allows her to work towards reform, but things are thrown into jeopardy by 2 others. A water dragon named Nami is exiled to the city, and she gets involved with an extremist group, and a sea witch named Cordelia who is determined to do whatever it takes to make sure her family survives and flourishes. Compass and Blade. Mira is a wrecker whose job is to rescue shipwreck survivors. She winds up making a deal with a survivor to retrieve a family secret in the sea in order to save her father from execution. Lore of the Wilds. When her village is threatened, Lore makes a desperate deal with the Fey Lord. She will leave her home to organize an enchanted library that hasn't been touched in 1,000 years, and she ends up escorted by 2 Fae. And then there's Snow Globe, which is translated from Korean. In a world of constant winter, only the citizens of the climate-controlled city of Snow Globe can escape the bitter cold. But this perfect society is hiding dark and dangerous secrets within its frozen heart. On March 5th, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So the first is a sequel, The Prisoner's Throne. This is the sequel to The Stolen Heir. And in that book, there's a runaway queen, a reluctant prince, and the quest that may destroy them both. There's Kindling, a gut-wrenching, introspective fantasy about 7 lost soldiers searching for the peace they once fought for and the future in which they're finally daring to believe. The Encanto's Daughter. Half Encanto MJ finds herself laying claim to a throne upon her father's sudden death, only to discover there may be conspiracies and curses afoot in a disorganized court. The Wren in the Holly Library. Book of Night meets Six of Crows in the sexy dystopian fantasy, and that's quite the pitch, if you ask me. On the 12th, we have 2 titles, I think. So the first is The Hedge Witch of Foxhall. A rebellious witch undertakes a last-ditch quest to restore magic to medieval Wales as 2 princes vie for her heart. A Feather So Black. The cruel prince meets For the Wolf in a sizzling fantasy romance inspired by Celtic mythology, spinning a magical tale of a defiant changeling, her cursed sister, and the dangerous Fey Lord she must defeat to save her family. March 19, I have 1 title, The Last Bloodcarver. When Nika is caught using her blood-carving abilities, she's captured and sold to an aristocratic family to heal the last witness of their father's murder. As she dives deeper into the investigation, she discovers there might be a bigger evil afoot. We have 2 titles for April 2, A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping. It's about a witch who has a second chance to get her magical powers and her life back on track. Darker by 4. Rui wants to avenge her mother's death. Yurad is the black sheep of his family because he has no magic. Nikai is a reaper serving the 4th king of hell. When an accident transfers Rui's power to Yiran, it sets all 3 on a path where they must rise against fate before the boundaries disappear and all hell literally breaks loose. That one is so exciting to me because it kind of sounds like Bleach, and I love the anime Bleach. We have 4 titles for April 9. First is a sequel, The Hemlock Queen, which is the sequel to The Foxglove King. In the first book, a young woman's secret power to raise the dead plunges her into the dangerous and glamorous world of the sainted king's royal court. Then we have The Familiar. Luzia Cotado uses her scraps of magic in order to better the social position of the family she works for, which winds up garnering the attention of some very powerful individuals and thrusting her into a life of power and politics. I'm super excited about this one because it's a new Lee Bardugo book. The Last Fi Hunter. Ambitious spy hunter and perpetual lone wolf X finds his road to glory interrupted when a heavily pregnant runaway enlists his help to escape through the ghost-infected forest. Dragon fruit. Hanalei is exiled when her father steals a sea dragon's egg, finding solace in studying sea dragons until an encounter with a female dragon offers her the chance to go home and right a wrong. Sam is the last remaining prince of Tamarind, but cannot inherit the throne of their matriarchal society, so he must marry or find a cure for his mother's illness. I have one book for April 16, To Gaze Upon Wicked Gods. A young woman cursed with the power of death must decide if saving her family is worth betraying her country. On the 23rd, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. First is Archangel's Lineage, which is part of the Guild Hunter series. And that series begins where Elena Devereaux, who is an expert vampire hunter, is hired by the Archangel of New York, Raphael, to track an archangel gone bad. Song of the Six Realms. Shu is a talented musician with no past or future, and after her uncle is killed, she finds herself accepting an offer from Duke Meng when he contracts her to serve as a musician at his manor for a year, and then she'll be free of her indenture. She soon discovers he's one of the divine rulers of the Six Realms and must work to unlock her memories in order to find answers in how to stop the impending war. Dragon Rider. A fearless orphan and an ambitious handmaiden flee from the empire that would imprison them, with a dream to return to their homelands and a determination that's unbreakable. Can an orphan captive learn the secrets of the Dragon Riders to stand up and avenge his people? A Letter to the Luminous Deep. A beautiful discovery outside the window of her underwater home is where the correspondence begins between E and Henry Clell. They uncover a mystery together that transforms the underwater world they love and fear, and when a seaquake destroys E's home, they both vanish. A year later, their siblings are determined to find out what really happened to the pair. April 30 has 2 sequels. First is Heavenly Tyrant, which is the sequel to Iron Widow. So in the first book, Zetian becomes a concubine pilot, which is basically the partner to a male pilot in a chrysalis, which is kind of like a giant robot, in order to avenge her sister's death, but winds up paired with the notorious and powerful Li Shimin when she kills her first partner through their psychic link. There's Sound the Gong, which is the sequel to Strike the Zither. And in that book, Orphan Zephyr became the best strategist of the land, serving under warlordess Shinren. She winds up forced to infiltrate an enemy camp and encounters Crow, the opposition's strategist, who may just be her match. 2 books for May 7. First is Can't Spell Treason Without T, which I love that title. So this is a cozy fantasy steeped in sapphic romance about one of the queen's private guards and a powerful mage who want to open a bookshop and live happily ever after if only the world would let them. I know, right? Spin of Fate, which I'm also super excited about. In this world, tyrannic law governs everything. It's a force that segregates people into the upper and lower realms. Desperate to reunite with her mother, Ain joins a rebel group and meets 2 other new recruits. Maison, a fighter working to save his clan from extinction, and Aranel, a noble spy. But war is brewing between a violent king of the lower realms and the upper realm authorities who want to stay in power, and the trio must confront both sides head-on. May 14th, The Honey Witch. The Honey Witch of Innisfree can never find true love. That is her curse to bear. But when a young woman who doesn't believe in magic arrives on her island, sparks fly. That sounds super cozy. When Among Crows. Demeter had to split his soul in half to make a sword from his own spine to slay the monsters he's been raised to kill. Alla's inherited a family curse to witness horrors committed by the Holy Order that will eventually claim her life unless she can find a cure. Demeter bargains with Alla for her help to find the legendary Baba in exchange for an enchanted flower that could potentially cure her. 2 books for May 23 or 21. The Temptation of Magic. As an Imperial, Nicole has the ability to hunt and kill dangerous creatures, making her invaluable. But if her power was ever triggered, the Wake would find her, use her, and then kill her. In an effort to figure out her mother's last instructions, she ends up working side by side with Kian McCarter, the Wake's best Imperial hunter. Goddess of the River. A powerful reimagining of the story of Ganga, goddess of the river, and her doomed mortal son. May 28 has 3 titles. The first is a sequel, The Mirror of Beasts. This is the sequel to Silver in the Bone. Tamsin is determined to track down her foster father in order to see if he really disappeared with a ring all those years ago that might be the key to breaking her brother's curse, even if that means she has to team up with her rival. That's basically the plot of the first book. The Fireborn Blade. Madeleine is a knight, and in order to redeem her honor in the most dramatic fashion, she has to retrieve the fabled Fireborn Blade from its keeper, a legendary dragon known as the White Lady, or die trying. Evocation. When the devil comes to collect on an ancestral deal, David reaches out to his ex-boyfriend and rival Reese for help via his now wife, Moira. June 4. The God and the Gumiho. The most notorious nine-tailed fox in Korea pairs up with a fallen trickster god to track down a demon before it destroys the mortal world in this sly, dazzling contemporary fantasy. June 25. Foul Days. Witch Kosara trades her shadow in exchange for passage across the wall where monsters cannot follow, only to find herself ill and needing her magic for a cure. To find her shadow, she teams up with the detective investigating the death of the smuggler who brought her across the wall. July 2 has 3 titles. The first is The Night Ends with Fire. Infused with magic and romance, this sweeping fantasy adventure, inspired by the legend of Mulan, follows a young woman determined to choose her own destiny, even if that means going against everyone she loves. Very excited for that. Masquerade. Set in a wonderfully reimagined 15th century West Africa, Masquerade is a dazzling lyrical tale exploring the true cost of one woman's fight for freedom and self-discovery and the lengths she'll go to secure her future. The Undermining of Twyla and Frank. A heartwarming fantasy with a best friends to lovers rom-com twist when Harry met Sally but with dragons, set in the delightful demigod and donut-filled world of Tanria. On July 9, we have 2 books. Black Tide Sun, the sequel to Darkwater Daughter. In the first book, Stormsinger Mary and pirate hunter Samuel team up to face down a deathless pirate lord, among other things. The Spell Shop. A cottagecore cozy fantasy following a woman's unexpected journey through the low-stakes market of illegal spell selling and the high-risk business of starting over. August 6 also has 2 titles. The Girl with No Reflection. A young woman chosen as the crown prince's bride must travel to the royal palace to meet her new husband, but her world is shaken when she discovers the dark truth the royal family has been hiding for centuries. Dance of the Starlit Sea. Lila Rose Lee arrives on Luna Island with her dreams of being the perfect ballerina dashed to pieces. As the villagers gear up for the Angel of the Sea pageant, a competition that seeks a high priestess for their commune, Lila discovers that something is haunting the island, on top of her hearing an eerie voice that's calling her closer to the ocean. On August 13, there are 2 books, Lady Macbeth, which is Ava Reed's reimagining of the story of Lady Macbeth, which I'm looking forward to, and The Phoenix Keeper. Head Phoenix Keeper, Ayla, must convince her patrons and the world that her facility can handle the breeding initiative for phoenixes to help conserve this endangered species, perhaps with a little help from her arch-rival Luciana, who handles the griffins. August 20 has 3 titles. My Salty Mary, which is Pirates of the Caribbean meets The Little Mermaid, which are 2 things I really enjoy, and I'm super excited about that. A Sorceress Comes to Call, a dark retelling of the Brothers Grimm's Goose Girl, rife with secrets, murder, and forbidden magic. The Reckoning of Roku. It explores the beginning of Roku's journey from privileged Fire Nation noble to the powerful but indecisive Avatar, whose hesitancy may ultimately pave the way for the 100-Year War. August 27, we have The Enchanted Lies of Celeste Artois. In this lush and lyrical fantasy, Ryan Grodin transports readers to the hidden magical pockets of early 1900s Paris, a place of enchanted salons, fortune tellers who can change your stars, and doorways that can take you to the most unexpected places, and introduces readers to the delightful Celeste Artois, a con artist who will make a deal with the devil in exchange for her life and change the fate of the world. September 10 has 2 titles, Silverborn, which is a continuation to the Nevermore series. In the first book, Morgan is fated to die on her 11th birthday until she escapes death by being transported into another world where she has to face some trials in order to determine her fate. The Scarlet Throne. Binsa is a living goddess chosen by the gods, dispensing mercy and punishment from the throne, except instead of a deity, she harbors a demon. When a new girl is selected to take over, Binsa and her demon strike a deal. She will sacrifice human lives in order to magnify his power and wrest control from the priest so that she can keep her position. September 17th, A Dark and Drowning Tide. A sharp-tongued folklorist must pair up with her academic rival to solve their mentor's murder. October 22, Scorched Earth, which is the finale of the Dark Shore series. So in the first book, it's basically a high seas adventure that starts because of blackmail, and there are meddling gods and impending war and political maneuvers and untapped powers. It's almost nearly impossible to describe the Dark Shore series, except to say that it's very, very good. If you like seafaring adventures, if you like kind of complicated webs and characters where you understand their motivations, but it doesn't make what their choices are right. It's got a little bit of Roman Empire inspiration in there as well. I think you would enjoy this. It's also got a little bit of Pirates of the Caribbean vibes going for it. November 12th, the release date for Where the Library Hides, which is the sequel to What the River Knows. In the first book, after learning that her parents have died, Inez sails to Egypt to find out the truth about their deaths, only to discover there's more old world magic at play in a much larger game than she initially thought. And then we have some books that I just know the month they're supposedly coming out, but I don't know if they're coming out for sure, but I wanted to include them anyway. So first is The Exile's Gift, which is the sequel to Tempest and Slaughter, supposedly August. In the first book, we have Aram Draper, who is a very talented mage studying at the University of Carthage alongside his best friends Varys and Orzorn, and he finds himself facing adventures and danger and questions of loyalty. Also in August, we have the second Tessa Miyata book, which is the sequel to Tessa Miyata is No Hero. In that first book, Tessa and Jin accidentally break a Miyata family heirloom, releasing a malicious samurai god, and must find a way to stop him from taking over Tokyo. I think this one will be in July. I don't know why I didn't put it first, but anyway, it's Flesh and False Gods #2. This is a sequel to Immortal Longings, which while I didn't love, it's by an author who I adore, so I'm definitely going to check out the sequel, and hopefully I will like it better than the first. In the first book, Kalia and Anton are competitors in the yearly tournament that promises wealth, repute, and a chance to meet the royal family, and they become reluctant allies despite their different individual goals. In October, we have 3 books. So there's an unannounced Stephanie Garber book. I think it'll be in October. It could be September. There's also an unannounced Carrie Maniscalco book, which is another book set in the Kingdom of the Wicked world. And then we have the second book in the Hurricane Wars series, which would be the sequel to the Hurricane Wars, which was about 2 enemies from opposing sides of a war that must team up in order to save the entire world by combining their magical abilities. And last but certainly not least, we have the 10th book in the Keeper of the Lost City series, which I'm pretty sure is going to come up in November, but who knows? Anyway, the first book starts off with Sophie Foster discovering that she's a key person in a magical world that she didn't know existed up until that moment she met a boy named Fitz. And that's a super simple way to explain that series, but trust me when I say it's gotten really, really good. We finally made it to the end. Those are the 2024 releases, or well, rumored releases that I am excited to get my hands on, to read, to keep an eye out for. I don't think I could read all of them. That's like 118 books, and that's basically almost the entirety of my reading goal. I don't think I could read all of them, but they're all definitely on my radar, and I hope that you were able to find some new releases that you're excited about in the year to come. And yeah, let me know if there's anything that's on your radar that I didn't mention here. I would love to hear about it. I'm always keen to find new authors and stories and books to love, and I know you guys are too. Thanks for watching this video. If you made it all the way through, kudos to you. Treat yourself to like a pastry or a cup of tea or a cup of coffee or a cup of hot chocolate, whatever floats your boat. And I'll see you guys with another video soon. I need to take a break because my voice is going now. I'll see you guys soon. Bye!